In our continuing conversation about inequalities, we're focusing on the efforts to help people understand how racial bias are still impacting communities of color today.
SHAUN Gallagher spoke with a local pastor who is using his influence as a faith leader to make an exponential impact.
It's often said you shouldn't talk about politics, religion, or money, as those topics can be touchy. But a group of local faith leaders are throwing that all out the window, all in the name of change.
There's really never been a time in the history of America where there has been zero tension between the black and white community.
Pastor Kurt Owens is hosting these conversations on racial reconstruction that he admits can sometimes be difficult.
If we're going to enter into some uncomfortable conversations, then we need to take the one thing that we have in common. And so when you're speaking to a believer's community, the one thing that we do have in common is Jesus.
One such conversation, he says, focused on the 4th of July and how people feel differently about what the holiday stands for.
What I was taught in school, though, was very different than what I was taught at home. You know, I was taught it was Independence Day for everybody. This was when America received its independence. This is something to celebrate. And I remember my mother being a real killjoy, and she was like, yeah, but independence was not for you.
I'm learning something that has never been on my radar. And these conversations are absolutely necessary so that the divide is lessened.
Owens says the conversations between these faith leaders are important because oftentimes congregations are just as segregated racially as Milwaukee itself.
If you got a congregation that's in a community that's 98% white, they're not hearing the other perspective. They're only hearing what's being reported on the news.
You know, the lenses that we're using to read Scripture and to come alongside and reread Scripture and reread church history through the eyes of those who don't look like us or don't have that majority culture perspective. And we probably will begin to see things about the Bible, see things about the history of the church that we just assumed or took for granted.
With a diverse group of protesters and the entire community listening, Pastor Owens says now is the time to improve equality.
As a black man, I don't have a voice. I don't really have a voice, but my white brothers and sisters, they have a voice. They do have a voice.
There's going to be places we'll never get into. We'll never be able to have that audience, but you can and you will. So to be able to share these things, have the tough conversations, don't back away from them. I think the time for sugarcoating and having the cover over our eyes is gone away. Equality is not something that anybody has a monopoly on. That's something that under the law, everybody should receive a piece of.
Pastor Owens says they hold these conversations every other Thursday on their Facebook page at 11 a.m. We'll include a link on how to get there at our website, tmj4.com. Just look for this story. In Milwaukee, SHAUN Gallagher, TMJ4 News.